lot of people don't understand how money works. It's not that we know or we hear the talking points online that says, well, cars depreciate, they're whatever, so on and so forth. Or we hear conversations about this or that or whatever. It's that when we go into it and we start to deep dive into certain things that's happening out here in these streets, a lot of people will say, well, cars aren't an asset. Well, it depends on how you use it. I'll get to it. Make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Let's look into the CNBC series in which they break down how cars and why cars depreciate so fast.
A car is one of the biggest purchases
Rent card on?
a person will make in their lifetime. But unlike a house, a car starts losing value right away. Literally, as you drive it off the lot. You could keep it spotless inside and out, give it regular maintenance, and protect it against every ding, dent, and scratch. And it'll still lose value. Depreciation, the rate at which that happens, is one of those numbers everyone in the automotive world thinks about. Consumers, automakers, and the massive used car market, which makes up somewhere around 40 million sales each year, more than double the sales of new cars. But in 2020, something strange started happening, turning the car market upside down.
Used vehicles were actually increasing for about 2 years, which would...
The reason why used vehicles, and again, I haven't seen this yet, but I've seen this video available in order to comment so I can get my own commentary. The reason why used vehicles skyrocketed was because there was less availability of new cars during the pandemic, which was happening in 2020, 2021, and 2022, right? Remember, the pandemic basically started in the beginning of 2020 at the end of 2019. And so what happened was because of logistics, supply chain shortages, no workers on the line, and all of this other type of stuff, you had the semiconductor chip shortage, you had the docks, you know what I'm saying? A lot of these cars is getting shipped over and so on and so forth. Plants had to shut down, and so the inventory of vehicles that was available, which again played into inflation, it was absolutely dire. And so the value of cars actually went up as far as the used car market because people still wanted vehicles and they had all of this free money. And then you also combine it with the fact that interest rates was super low at the time and the Fed wanted to keep the supply of money and it was giving y'all stimulus checks, right? And so everybody was like, well, I want to go and buy homes, I want to buy cars. And so the value of those things shot up. Everything, the value of every single thing shot up because there was a shortage of availability of new cars and a semiconductor chip shortage. So the environment by which you exist in will largely feed into what the value of something is. There are certain cars, for example, that hold their value regardless of whether or not it's a new car or it's a used car. Similar to watches. My watch is more available after or is more valuable after I purchased it and even after I wore it because the value of it is based off of the demand of it, right? And so it holds its value. It's the reason why certain automakers, say Lamborghini, they make a limited amount, but then they still make sure that they can scale up as much as possible. They make a limited amount of their vehicles because the value in it is the scarcity of it, right? And so when you have mass producers, mass manufacturers, or whatever, so on and so forth, then the value of it is going to go down because the market is then flooded with it. Even the diamond market, right? The diamond market, the reason why y'all value diamonds so much is because there's companies that literally withhold the amount of diamonds that's available on the market in order to artificially inflate the price of it, right? But as soon as you drive it off the lot, especially when there's a large availability of it, the value of it goes down. Basic understanding of how money works. If you go out and you look for a Ford GT, for example, right? A lot of people not familiar with a Ford GT. Ford GTs hold their value. They actually are worth more than what you were able to get it for new off the lot. I just recently purchased a 96 Impala. Somebody offered me $6,000 more than what I paid for it, and I haven't even drove it 100 miles. Somebody offered me $6,000 more than what I paid for it because the demand of it, and especially considering that they're never making any more of them, is high. There's certain vehicles, certain things, certain quantities, certain items, certain watches or whatever. The value of it is determined by the market, but the scarcity of it also feeds into it.
We've never seen anything like that for the market.
A lot of those trends have abated since, but those odd times led to lasting changes. In the post-pandemic world, there are fewer cars to go around, and prices for both new and used vehicles are still high. That is unlikely to change for a while.
Now, I'm not selling my 96. I'm cool. It's one of my grill cars. I'm probably try to keep that as long as I possibly can, unless somebody offer me a crazy amount of money for it.
Car buyers want their cars to hold value because it will help them get their money back if they decide to sell it at some point, whether they're trading it for a new one or not. In addition, a lot of car purchases are financed, which means if the resale value of the car dips too low, a buyer could end up paying more for the car
And then
than
you
it is
underwater.
worth.
Yep.
That is what it means to be underwater
Yep.
on a loan. Similarly, automakers want their cars to hold as much value as possible, in part because they know customers care about that. Depreciation also affects how automakers charge for leases, which are an effective way of drawing in new customers, but are expensive to run for automakers. Every car depreciates differently. Luxury cars lose value the fastest. Sedans lose value faster than SUVs, and cars from brands with strong reputations for quality and reliability depreciate more slowly. But on average, cars lose about 10% of their value as soon as you drive them off the lot.
So most of the time, if you don't even put no money down on it, let's say you purchase a new vehicle, right? Let's say you buy a Ford Explorer, right? And you drive it off the lot, and let's say you paid $60,000 for that truck. Then the value of that car is really only $54,000, probably way less than that. $54,000 because the market is also a determining factor. So let me say this also, and there's some other context and caveats that go into it. You also got to take into consideration dealerships and wholesale prices and auction prices, right? What they're looking to pay for it, which is a large determining factor of what the value of it is, in order for them to be able to resell it and make a profit, also determines what the value of your car is. So market manipulation is also a factor. Market manipulation is also a factor. What we value as foreign cars is not as valuable in the spaces where it's produced because it's more rare.
There are a few reasons for this.
One
And
is
Toyota values
that,
do drop.
We like new cars. We just like being in a brand new car, and it's not
That
brand
new
new
car
once
smell,
you take
baby.
it off the lot.
The 10% loss in value corresponds almost exactly with another specific number.
What up,
And
Five
that
Brown
number,
late?
say some insiders, is the primary reason a vehicle's value drops that much in the first day of ownership: incentives. Most new cars are sold with incentives at one point or another when first purchased by a consumer. An incentive is a discount on a vehicle provided by a manufacturer or dealer to induce people to buy it. Prior to the pandemic, the average incentive on a vehicle was about 10%. That means, on average, new vehicles were sold for about 90% of their MSRP, or
I'll give you an example. Right? Over the past week, I had been trying to search out and find what is very rare as far as a new car. I was searching out a G63, a G-Wagon 63. And every single dealer, there was not one dealer in the United States of America that didn't say, hey, if you want to get a G550, we're going to charge you, the dealership is going to charge you an additional $25,000 or $50,000 for a G63. And one of the reasons why they were able to do that is because the demand for it is so high that people are willing to overpay for the vehicle.
manufacturer suggested retail price. And so that car you bought seems to drop by 10% in value the moment you drive it off the lot. What is actually happening is that the market is pricing in the probability you received a 10% discount or incentive on that vehicle even if you didn't.
It's kind of a messy part of how we do things because we can't go back and see what the average transaction price is, but we know historically what MSRP is on a year, make, model combination, and so we can go see the value of that car against its original MSRP.
Another fact.
You know what the weird thing is that I learned about, for example, like for most vehicles, it's interesting because let's say, for example, you lease a vehicle, right? Especially if you're a business owner, because the rules for you being able to do write-offs and use it for business specifically differs from how it is that you actually account for it, for the depreciation and everything like that, for purchasing a vehicle, right? And so let's say, for example, you lease a vehicle. It's interesting because every single automaker, except for one that I know of right now, every single automaker allows for you to obviously purchase the vehicle at the end of your lease, except for Tesla. Except for Tesla. Tesla is the only one, and I'm trying to understand it, and I've been researching it because I want to share, the differences with you guys in a future live stream. But Tesla is the only one that, to my knowledge, does not allow for you to actually do a lease buyout after the end of the vehicle. And so for some reason, they see more value in their vehicles and owning them and then reselling them to the consumer at the price that they want to sell them for, even though they've been fluctuating in the prices, versus a traditional automaker that allows for you to lease the vehicle and then you buy it out at the end of it. And the determining factor for whether you buy it out, I actually did this hack inside of the Patreon where I showed you guys the receipts, and that one of the vehicles that I had leased before, and then I went ahead and I purchased it, because what I did was I first did a calculation on other, some of these other sites like the CarMax and the whatever, so on and so forth. And then once I found out what they were going to give me for the vehicle versus what it was that I was going to buy the vehicle out for, it was a no-brainer because it was like free money. It was a money hack. You know what I'm saying? So it's the only vehicle manufacturer that I know that don't allow for you to be able to, buy out the vehicle after the lease. It's weird.
When you sell your car, chances are you are often selling or trading it back in at a dealership. The dealer is going to offer you the wholesale price on the vehicle, what the vehicle would fetch at a wholesale market, like a dealer auction. Those prices are always lower than the retail price.
That's why they always want you to get a trade-in, because they're going to basically give you nothing for it, because they know you're going to just finance whatever the new vehicle price is. Yeah, Carvana and all of them.
Sell it to another consumer for, as there are additional costs and margin that need to be absorbed. That lower wholesale value also makes up part of the depreciation consumers see and feel. Higher-priced cars have higher markups or variance, so there is an even bigger gap between their retail price and wholesale value.
So the value of your car and the reason why it depreciates so much is based off of essentially what somebody else is willing to pay for it.
But there is a third reason why cars lose value so quickly. An economist named George Akerlof won a Nobel Prize for coming up with this idea. Akerlof's famous paper is called The Market for Lemons. And the idea works like this. In any market, there are information asymmetries. This means sellers know more about the product they are selling than potential buyers do.
Yep.
If you have a car and it's like
Excuse me, sir, I'm going to need you to look into the camera and open up your eyes.
3 days old or 3 months old, and you sell it, why would you do that if the car was a good car? You're probably doing it because the car is a lemon.
From that first day drop, a car's value slides further, about another 10% throughout the first year. In the second and third year, it drops again and again.
One of the worst investments that you can make. So unless you're in a space to where you can actually justify the car purchase, whether it be from a business perspective or you generating so much revenue to where you can actually just let your assets pay for whatever your lifestyle is, then it actually doesn't make sense for you to do that. Until you get to listen, if you're just buying a new car because you just want a new car, then I hope you are in a financial space to where you generating so much money in revenue and your assets are throwing off so much money that you can justify it. Because if you're just doing it just because you want a new car or you don't like your old car or you want that new car smell, if you're looking at the depreciation costs, especially based off of the type of cars that y'all buy, I know a lot of y'all want the Chargers, the Challenger, the Hellcats, and all of that stuff. Be careful. It is a losing proposition, but most people make an emotional decision when it comes to purchasing a car because they want to be seen and impress people that don't care anything about them.
Estimates of how much can vary depending on who you talk to and what they are measuring. Again, a car will fetch less money on a wholesale market than it will on a retail market, and maybe during a transaction between a
But
private
don't nobody
buyer
want to
and
sell the
seller.
car themselves, especially if
In
you
normal
got
time-
money that you still owe on it, because then they got to pay the finance company and then you can get the difference. It's a headache.
A steady supply of new vehicles year after year is enough to drive the value of any given car down. Add to that the normal wear and tear that comes with ownership.
It's like your tires wear out. You may get dings in your door over time. You know, maybe there's a crack in your windshield. Maybe your kid spills juice in the back seat and the upholstery is messed up. And all of that's just wear and tear on a car, which means that it's not worth what it originally was, or to put it back in that state, someone would have to invest money to recondition the car back.
Ain't
After
nothing on that
about
tile.
3 years, vehicles on average historically held about 50% of their value. 3 years is a kind of benchmark for the used car market.
And that's crazy to me. The idea that you are willing to, as a person, finance something that you're going to be paying an egregious amount of money in interest for, while also the car itself loses 50% of its value within 3 years on average, is crazy to me. But one thing I know about my people, and two things is for certain: we love wasting money when we don't really have money to waste. We love wasting money when we don't really have money to waste. Yeah, it's a bad situation. It's a bad do. But anyways, I'm going to just leave that there. It's no need in actually going into the whole thing. The idea is that you don't want to invest. A car is not an investment unless you are a business owner and you can leverage that car to make more money. For example, if you were the type of person that is a construction worker, right, or you own a construction company, then you need to be able to haul and carry equipment. If you are in farming or something like that, right? Or if you use the car in order to transport clients back and forth or whatever, if it adds value into your business, you can justify the business cost, even if the value of it goes down a little bit because it's there to make you more money, all right? But on the flip side, depreciation is absolutely a killer in it. And so everything that you do and everything that you purchase, even outside of a car, you want to make sure, and congratulations, Ken J, you want to make sure that whatever it is that you buy, hopefully it appreciates over a period of time. A lot of people say, Anton, well, you spend money on these watches or whatever, so on and so forth. My watches hold value. I can enjoy them. They hold their value. A lot of times they're sentimental because I'm buying them as a result of a milestone moment. But I don't just buy crazy watches. You don't see me going out there going to get a Jacob. And I mean, I heard Jacobs are okay or whatever. But I stick with specific brands that allow for my money to actually hold its value because it goes up in value over a period of time because it's still an asset. So I can wear it, I can enjoy it, but at the same time, I actually, if I wanted to ever get rid of it, I get more money as a result of it, right? Even when I'm purchasing cars and stuff, I purchase them. Well, I'm not going to give y'all all of that game, but in a general sense, I continue to, when I purchase things personally for use, either I have to be making money from it or it has to be retaining its value.